We have Gurmeet Chadha, who's the Managing Partner and CIO at Complete Circle, and Abhishek Gaoshinde, who's the Deputy VP Research, Sharekhan by BNP Paribas, now joining in to discuss their views on this big bang IPO, which is expected. Gurmeet as well as Abhishek, thanks and welcome to the show. Well, Gurmeet, let's kick off, the discussion with the valuation picture, because like when you mentioned, FY26, Hyundai is coming in at probably 18 times as compared to the peers, which are at over 20 times at this point in time. So there seems to be something left on the table.
Yeah, I think it's a fair valuation here. So if they did almost 6,000 crores, and if you take 1.5 lakh crore, you are currently at 25, which is trailing. So I think about, if it's not, but if you see last 3 years, the EBITDA has been growing at about 25% CAGR. So I think 20%, if you take profit growth, I think it's in line with what they are doing in last 3 years, because their operating margins have gone up by almost 100 basis points. They focused on reducing the low entry variants and focusing more on SUVs. So if you see now, almost 2/3 of the portfolio is SUVs. And one good thing about Hyundai is that it's across powertrains. So it's on the combustion IC engines, it's on EV, it's on hybrid, both plug-in and other. And now they are launching the CNG variants also, and Creta EV. They currently have 2 EVs. So Creta EV is very widely anticipated. Creta is one of the best-selling MUVs in that space. So I think it's a good product portfolio, good technology from the parent. The only concern, typically South Korean manufacturers have, including Hyundai, if you see Hyundai global trades at single digit, is very low dividend and the dependence on the internal ecosystem. So if you see tier 1 suppliers, for example, almost 1/3 of them are or Hyundai related party, which is Hyundai Mobis and Kia and others of the world. And as Vinny was pointing out, and there's some more clarity on the royalty. If it goes up to 3.5, it's in line with Maruti. So I think at 18-20 times, it's a fair valuation. Also, Maruti is the only pure PV play. Others, M&M, Tamo are across different segments of the auto value chain. So maybe that also will play out. So I think it's a decent IPO, but do not have very, unrealistic expectations like market has had with the recent ones like Bajaj Housing and others of the world.
All right, fairly priced, and do not run ahead with expectations. But Abhishek, this is Ritu quickly stepping in. What about the timing of the IPO? This is coming at a time when passenger sales are slowing down. There's heavy discounting, high inventory, and Hyundai is not a company that really needs the money or the recognition for that matter. What do you make of the timing?
On that, it's largely be dependent on what their merchant bankers have been advised to them. But if the timing is wrong, then definitely the valuations are also realistic. If it would be come into the up cycle, then the valuation would be somehow different. So what I can say that at this point of time, an MNC with a with almost 15% kind of a market share in the domestic PV segment, having almost generating 20% kind of its volume from the export market, is available at a decent valuation, which I think should be considered as a more beneficial for the investor, rather than even if it would come in the up cycle. Then even in that case also, I think the response would be similar, because it's ultimately at the end of the day, it's an OFS where the South Korean promoter is offering an opportunity to Indian investors to play on the domestic PV theme. So it's timing. I don't think that's a major concern for an IPO.
Okay, Abhishek, how would you stack up Hyundai versus the other domestic PV manufacturers at this point?
Okay, so on that front, we have to be compared more to the Maruti, because both of these players are mass players, just like a Hero MotoCorp and a Bajaj Auto. And the analogy will also be the similar, that in terms of realization, if you see that Hyundai's total volume is almost 1/3 of the volume which Maruti does, but the volume mix is better than that of the Maruti. Almost 65-67% of Hyundai's volumes come from the UV segment. 20% of its volumes come from the export segment, and export realizations are higher. So in FY24, if we compare like to like, then I think Hyundai's ASPs were almost 1.36 times of Maruti's ASPs, and that has been reflecting in the better margin and the profitability. So even if we given a conservative growth multiple of roughly 10 to 12% kind of earning growth in next 2 years, then the Hyundai's IPO would be available at around 21 to 22 times compared to 22 23 times where Maruti is trading.
Okay, Gurmeet, what is the scope for Hyundai's market expansion from here on? Where will that growth come from? They've had a good run with Creta, of course, but if you look at the SUV segment, whether that is Mahindra, whether that is Maruti, they're really stepping up on the competition.
So, I think two areas where growth can come from, Ritu. One is, as I said, new variants, the CNG variants in Creta EV. They currently have one, which is Kona. The other is, iNEX 5. One at about 44 lakhs, the other is at 22 lakhs. I think Creta EV would be somewhere in between, where probably the Innova hybrid is priced in between 30-35 in my view. Let's see what price it comes. Second, they acquired the Talegaon plant from General Motors, right? And current capacity is about 825,000, which is about 8.25 lakhs. And that plant from next year should contribute about 150,000 and then can expand to, upwards of 2 lakh units. If you see recently, last couple of years, their China dependence has come down from 25% to 6% due to some, geopolitical issues between both nations. So they might want to use this as an export hub in terms of increasing the export sourcing from India, from the Talegaon plant. So I think that to me would be a key monitorable, and we have to see whether, that can contribute to the overall volumes. Also, if you see in global numbers, Hyundai Global, India's contribution to volume has gone up from 13 to 18% in the last 7-8 years. So export and new launches is where I think they can manage a high single-digit growth, maybe early double-digit.
Okay. Well, Gurmeet, what is it for you then? Subscribe to this IPO, and what would probably be the key positive and negative to watch out for?
So I think you have to have a more medium and long-term view here, not just for listing gains. Typically, very large IPOs, like the one, this is the largest now, right? The last one was LIC. Before that, any large IPOs, because they suck out so much liquidity, typically come at the peak of the market. So I would not probably advise this, always avoid leverage. That's always been our stance. So I think from medium to long term, as I said, looks fair. The negative, in my view, as I said, is they also operate Kia Motors in India, and there could be some conflict because Kia operates at lower price points. There could be some cannibalization of volume between the two. And second is the royalty payment. I think there is some more clarity which is needed and a long-term clarity needed, because these frequent changes in royalty can reduce your operating margins and profitability by quite a bit. And we've seen that with Maruti market having some concerns on royalty. But there's some more clarity which can come there, and some related party thing with Kia. I think these are the two negatives in my view.
Okay, and Abhishek, your quick SWOT analysis and subscribe or not subscribe?
Though we do not assign any rating to an IPO, but what I can say that this particular IPO is available at a fair valuation compared to its immediate peer, that is Maruti. Second, that the company has been holding its 14-15% kind of a market share, strong exposure to the export and a parentage, and along with that, the company has a plan to expand its product portfolio in the EV and the CNG segment, which is available in the public domain also. So, considering that, what I can conclude here is that so far we have only one player, that is a Maruti, available to play on the PV theme. So, some kind of a TINA factor was associated with the Maruti, but now we have two alternatives. Maruti and Hyundai to play on the PV theme, and both have a different kind of financial metrics. So at certain point of a time, it gives a strong alternative to the investment community.
Okay, all right, Gurmeet as well as Abhishek. Thanks very much for joining in and giving us your perspective on what is going to be a big IPO to watch out for. That is Hyundai. On that note, we need to wrap up on the show with the news that we have the mid-cap index, which is speeding ahead up around 800 odd points. We have the Nifty, which is above 25,100 as we speak. It is off the highs, but nonetheless, still steady gains coming in for the markets post the RBI policy. It's a wrap from all of us. Business Lunch up next.